Let's talk about what to do when resentment has piled up in your marriage. I recently worked through this in my own marriage as my husband and I had just welcomed our second child and have been navigating that hard newborn season that's a minefield for resentment to accrue. I used this analogy with my husband, and I'll share it here because I think it's important to understand. Resentment is a cancer to a marriage. Just like there are lots of types and stages of cancer, ranging from a little skin cancer that can be lasered off by a dermatologist to a terminal stage 4 bone cancer diagnosis. Resentment can range widely in intensity and significance. But make no mistake, any cancer left untreated can become life-threatening. Resentment in a marriage that goes unexpressed, ignored, or unresolved for too long is a silent killer to partnership, trust, and love. Steps must be taken to address it, work on it, and heal it for the health of the relationship. Now, what those steps require of us is going to look different for every couple. So instead, I want to focus on what will make the most difference for couples who want to get to the root of their resentment. Now, like we previously talked about, resentment is that compounding of little hurts or frustrations that grow over time. One of the most common sources of resentment in a marriage or relationship is when needs or expectations go unmet. The experience of resentment in marriage especially often feels like we're in a state of wanting. Heidi Priebe did a video about resentment called Combating Resentment by Examining Our Unconscious Relationship Contracts. In the video, she compared the feeling of our resentment in our relationships to as if we were in a group project and we have completed our half of the project, but our partner won't turn in their work. We're left wanting that other person to simply behave the way that we believe they ought to. Sometimes in a marriage, it feels like the most obvious thing in the world to us. Like, we do X when we show up for our partner, so it seems fair to expect the person to do the same. And other times, if we're caught up in doing and being what we think our partner needs from us, then deep-seated people-pleasing or boundary breaking can lead to very strong feelings of resentment. The key to releasing resentment in a marriage is to first reflect on this. In order to cure the cancer of resentment, we must identify the conscious and unconscious stories we're operating inside of that are causing these resentments to grow. In our relationships, we have rules or even social contracts that we believe are how things go or how they're supposed to be. Most of these rules or agreements are deeply ingrained from childhood and totally unconscious. Some are conscious. For example, some of my conscious beliefs or contracts, the ones I know that I believe, that I identified when I did this work were I expect reciprocity, but not transactionality. I feel yucky when I give too much or take too much from one relationship. If it feels like there's an imbalance or if it's too tit for tat, then that creates issues for me. I also want to give and receive love in our preferred love languages. I'm a quality time and words of affirmation person, so I appreciate it when people show up for my heart in those ways, and I make a concerted effort to show love to others in the way that they receive love best. I also believe that in communication, clear is kind. Speaking plainly and directly about needs, wants, feelings, and agreements in a relationship is a top-tier need for me. If there are people in my life who avoid confrontation like the plague, then there will always be a limit to that relationship for me because it means that there isn't a level of true authenticity and honesty available to us. These are all things I know I need because I've done a decent amount of work to curate these beliefs. We all carry these kinds of core beliefs that we relate to as true about how the world works, and we create expectations of others to uphold their side of the agreement. We expect them to agree with our version of reality or how things are supposed to be. And if they don't, hurt and resentment grow. Identifying and communicating these conscious beliefs is a really profitable exercise to do with your partner or spouse because it nips so many little resentments in the bud. When you are aware of your and their expectations in a relationship, it makes it so much easier to speak the same language and avoid causing unintended harm. The trickier level to this work is identifying the unconscious contracts you hold others and yourself to. Identifying these can sometimes feel like opening your eyes in a dark room and waiting for your eyes to adjust. It can take a minute, and even then, it's not always clear what's there. The thing about these unconscious stories that I find maddening is that they can change and evolve without us knowing. I've done this kind of introspective work for years, and it seems the more time goes on and the deeper I come to know myself, it's like I continue to discover these unconscious stories that were either always lurking in the shadows out of sight, or simply I've acquired the older I get without realizing it. For example, when I recently did this exercise with my husband, when resentment was really getting in the way of connection during this difficult newborn stage, I discovered one of my unconscious stories is that I feel people should offer support both in the way that they think will help, and they should ask me what I need so I can tell them what support looks like. Because if they just do one of those, usually what they think I need doesn't fully cover it, And when they ask, sometimes I don't fully know what I need until someone gives it to me and I'm like, yes, that's it. Plus, it feels good when someone just tries to show you support without being told how to behave or what to say. Even if it doesn't fully meet the need that I have, it feels good and it feels like they're trying. And I believe that because that's what I do in most of my relationships. I offer my support by trying to say or do the things that I believe will help them, but I also check in and ask what they need and what support looks like for them. I wouldn't have been able to name that or know that about myself if I hadn't done this exercise. So I encourage you to look for yourself too. Look for the obvious conscious stories that you feel are true about how relationships work. And then look for the unconscious rules that you may not realize you're operating inside of in relationships and holding others to as well. The exercise is simple. Complete this sentence. They should blank because I blank. Super straightforward, but when you really dig beneath the surface to find those unspoken expectations you abide by in relationship, you can get right to the source of resentment and stop it in its tracks. And the beauty is that sometimes identifying it and communicating it is enough to change the course of action within that relationship. Or just the simple act of identifying it gives you the opportunity to assess it and either consciously opt in or consciously opt out of that expectation or rule. Maybe you understand why and where that belief came from and how it served you in the past, but maybe it no longer fits where you are now and what you need out of your current relationships. Either way, bringing what's unconscious to a conscious level is always extremely productive to do for yourself and your relationships, and will greatly contribute to the repair and healing of resentments. So I'd love to know, what are some of the conscious contracts that have really served you well, or what unconscious contracts did you unearth that genuinely surprised you? Whether you caught the whole episode or just one of our segments, either way, thank you for making it all the way to the end, and I hope that you are subscribed so you don't miss another episode. Please join me in my mission to turn a world full of content creators into a world of contentment creators. Bye, y'all.